Hey guys, Danny from Pixel Looters here. I'm just going to be doing a little talk about Dawngate here. Just kind of talking about some of the features it has. I've got a pre-recorded video of myself playing a match, and I'll just be kind of talking about what's going on, highlighting some stuff. I'll probably clip it so it's not the whole match, but just enough to give you guys an idea of what it's like and what makes it kind of different from some of the other MOBAs out there, and what makes it the same. So basically, this is the main menu, nothing too fancy. One thing that I do want to go into here is the loadouts menu. It's the same thing as like a room page in League of Legends. You can slot in different, they're called sparks, but they're basically runes. So they give you abilities like health regeneration, defense, attack. You can put these, uh, they're called spirit stones. They're basically like little slots that have openings for sparks, and then when you put a spark in, it activates. So it's kind of cool because you can customize your pages instead of League, where you just put runes on a rune page. In this one, you can actually customize the layout of it, which is really kind of cool. It gives you a lot of customizing that you can do with it. Kind of, just a real basic rundown. If you want to get into it, you can really go in depth. The other thing I wanted to, just show you up here is that there is the Destiny amount that you have, which is basically the in-game currency that you earn, and then the Waystone points, which are the ones that you can buy with money. And obviously those go towards buying characters and all sorts of stuff. I'll break those down a little bit at the end of the match, but I'm just gonna hop into a game here, and I'll probably skip through here. So on the screen here, we've got your character select menu. They're called shapers in the game. They want to be different. And the cool thing about it is you can select the preference of which role you want to play. So for those people who don't just want to call one out, you can highlight, hey, I'll play gladiator or tactician, which is basically support and damage, if you want to do that. So that people know what you're kind of leaning towards. Which it's a small touch, you can always just say it in the chat, but it's kind of cool just to broadcast it out to everybody there. So there's all sorts of shapers that they have here on the menu, and I only own one champion, so these are actually all the free champions. They give you, I believe it's 10 free champions a week, which is pretty generous, especially considering the roster right now is only made up of maybe 20 or 25, so you get to play as a lot of different champions right now. I don't know if they're going to change that once they're out of beta or not, but yeah, you get a pretty good selection. So now we get to see the bonuses of each role, and I'll slow it down here. The gladiator role, you get a bonus on how much money you get. It's called Vim in the game, how much you get for killing a minion. And if you don't get a last hit on a minion, you store a charge, and next time you kill a minion, you release the charge to earn the money you should have gotten. It's kind of cool. It's an auto assist way to make sure that you're not losing out on last hit, but you can only store 3 charges, so it's not like you can rely on that as a way to just keep getting your money. But it is kind of like a handicap to help yourself out. Tactician here, when you're near lane minions that die, you get a bonus to your Vim. And then you gain bonus Vim when you damage a minion. Damage an enemy shaper. So it kind of just gives you, money for doing stuff that a support should be doing, harassing, just being around other minions that die in the lane. So that's kind of cool. And then we have the Hunter. The Hunter does more damage to jungle creatures. When you kill a jungle creature, you restore a little bit of health. And then sometimes you'll get bonus Vim for killing a jungle creature. And then the last one is Predator. It's kind of the wild card. Not a whole lot of people choose it. And I talk about it a little bit in the article that this will be posted on. But every time you kill an enemy, you get a bonus. Anytime you get an assist, you get a bonus. Anytime you kill Spirit Well workers, which I'll go over, you get a bonus. And then your experience gets a bonus as well. So it's just a role for ganking, for killing champions, which is very cool and creative, and I really like the idea behind it. The problem is it's not as reliable as a gladiator, tactician, or hunter. You're not always going to be able to get kills, and therefore you're not always going to be able to take advantage of the benefits of the predator. So it's kind of a wild card. Maybe they'll change it out of beta, because a lot of people do complain about it, and you don't see it a lot, and I think they need to rebalance it a bit so that it has more widespread benefit that you're always going to be able to take advantage of. but nevertheless, those are the 4 roles that you can do. To the left, you can see you can choose your loadout. I just got a generic one that you start off with. Now I ended up choosing Amaranth. I don't remember if that's her name or not, but she is a I'm playing her as a gladiator. She's a ranged character. She has the potential to be a very good support character. I'm playing her as a gladiator, which is not as aggressive as a lot of other gladiator champions, but she's pretty good. You'll see that she's got some solid abilities that you can use to harass and also do a decent amount of damage. She's got a pretty good ability that lets her escape from enemies as well. So here we're at the home base, and it's the same thing as the opening of any MOBA pretty much. And right here we've got the item screen. Now one thing that's important to show off is that every base item just gives you a standard bonus. You get health, you've got your armor, your power, your magic resist, your haste, and your lifesteal. And so basically you can build off of those. So say you want to go like health and power, you can build a health item early, and then you can go into a branch off that's health and power, or you can go into a branch off that's just health, or you can go into a branch off that's health and haste. So you kind of get to mix and match as you go, and everything branches out, which is very cool until you hit the 3rd level of each item. And the 3rd level of each item is, the most powerful one. It gives you, pretty good bonuses, and it gives you passives. And everything that's also important to note is that every item in the game gives you passives. You don't get any active abilities from your items. It's all just stuff that'll happen during the course of the game. I personally like this. It's less abilities and cooldowns I have to worry about while I'm playing the game. It's less hotkeys I gotta worry about hitting. And just having the abilities go off as you're playing, it just kind of helps out on not having to manage as much stuff. A lot of people, may think that it's not as, makes the game not as skill intensive as a game like League, where you do have to worry about, is the ability of my item cooled down or not? Can I use it? When should I use it? But I think it just helps. I can buy my items and not have to worry about pressing the buttons and whatever. Now, one thing I did forget to talk about is that you do get to choose your hero. Your summoner spell is what they're called in League. You do get to choose it on the fly, so you don't have to pick them before the match starts. I chose Haste, which is an ability that just gives you and everybody around you a speed boost. And then at level 10, you get your 2nd one, and at level 20, you get your 3rd one. So you can kind of shift depending on the way you're playing or the way you need to play, you can take different abilities. I really, really like that about the game, because League, just taking abilities beforehand is really tough, especially when you don't know who you're up against. So everybody kind of just ends up taking the same stuff. Everybody gets flash and then something else, and you don't really know what you're up against, so that's what you have to do. But in this game, depending on who you're laning against, you can pick something that differentiates from what you would normally pick. You can kind of mix and match your tactics, which is really cool. And then right here is the soul well that I was talking about, and you have spirit workers, which are the little guys that are kind of going back and forth. Now you see the little white outline around it. That shows that it's locked. That means that the team whose color it is, which is our team, this blue team, has control of it, and nobody can contest it. Nobody can go in and take it from you. They can still kill the soul workers, but they can't take the well. And the soul workers will gather gold, and every so often you get the spirit workers will get Vim for you, and it'll help your team. So it's basically your passive gold income. That means that if the enemy comes and attacks it and kills the guys off, you lose your passive gold until they respawn. If somebody comes and takes your spirit well, then they get the bonus gold that Vim that's going to be generated from it. So I believe it's after 15 minutes it opens up, so you're safe until then. But once they open, it can get pretty intense trying to contest them, and it's a cool side objective. It really can turn the tide of the battle, because just passive Vim is very important, and so it's kind of just an extra objective for you to go to. It's kind of a king of the hill kind of feel. Alright, so I guess I'll talk about her abilities a little bit. I'm not going to really go too in depth here, but basically I'm playing a character, like I showed out, I'm playing her as a gladiator, so I'm playing her as an attack heavy champion. Or in this game they use power as a general term for both magic damage and attack damage. So I can build her as a power champion, and it helps my auto attacks to a degree and my abilities. So she has just some basic harass moves here. You'll see she can send a bubble out, and if it encases someone, it does damage once it detonates. It does damage to everybody around them as well. She has a school of fish that she can send out, and it'll do damage to an area as long as there was a target there when she shot it out. And then she also has a dash that you can use, and that dash kind of gives her some pretty good mobility so that you can chase, and you can also get away because she's pretty squishy unless you build her as a tanky kind of character. And then her ultimate, which you'll see me get later obviously, is a wave that she shoots forward, and it does damage to everybody and knocks them up a little bit. It's kind of like Nami from League of Legends in that respect. But right now we're just kind of doing the basic farming thing. In my lane next to me I've got Mina, who is a character I'm not too familiar with, but one of her cool abilities is that she is able to actually jump into a friendly character. And so when she jumps into someone, she takes a portion of their damage, but she also is able to use attacks while she is inside that person. She can jump out, and upon exiting, she fears anybody around her. So she's a really good support champion for people to play because she doesn't really have to do a whole lot of attacking minions on her own, and she's got really good harass, and she's also able to have a really good fear effect on team battles. One of the cool things about the game is that when you play a support character, you get Vim, the currency, just from being near minions that die. So you don't have to worry about last hitting. You don't have to worry about building items that let you do that. You passively gain 3 Vim per enemy minion killed next to you. So you kind of get a little boost as opposed to League of Legends where you have to build an item that gives you passive money or get assist kills for a lot of your income, which is really nice about the game. It kind of gives you a little bit of a head start on the gold situation, or Vim in this case. And I've got Dibs here, who I guess was our jungler. I wasn't actually 100% sure. He's a support character too, but he's a pretty aggressive one. He's got some interesting abilities. I'm not going to go through them all right now, but you'll see in a little bit his ultimate lets him grow wings, which gives him and everybody around him a passive increase to their power, and then he can activate it again to fly anywhere on the map. So he's really good for team fights because if something breaks out and he's not near them, he can activate his ultimate to fly over to them and then give everybody a passive power increase. And those trees that you're seeing, like what Nissa's running around in right now, those are planted by Mara, who's her support, which is the big burly woman. I'm not sure where she is at this point. I think she actually may have disconnected. She can lay down trees, and if Mara herself is within the range of the trees, she gets a bonus to her attack speed and life drain. So it kind of makes her a little bit more aggressive while she is in the trees range, and she can also use her Q ability to slingshot herself to the trees. So she can kind of get around easily that way too. I'm back in the shop and just kind of buying some stuff. I want to build, obviously pretty aggressive. You got a lot of different stats, and as you can see, all of the bonus abilities that items give you are passives. They're all passive abilities. You don't have to worry about any actives, which is really nice for someone like me who just, likes to kind of streamline the process of team fighting and using abilities. I don't like to have to worry about my items being on cooldown or having to use them. So in case you guys didn't see when I bought my items before, I bought some items that had, one of my items has Mastery as one of the attributes, and Mastery pretty much just refers to, it's mainly used for critical hits, but in this game you can actually overload your spells as well, which cause them to do extra damage. It's basically critical hits for one of your abilities, which is really cool because that makes a lot of diversity in the items. Therefore, there aren't just characters that are attack based building Mastery. It's also kind of any character, which is how a lot of the attributes are. How I was talking about power and how it can also affect your ability damage in addition to your auto attacks, which is nice. There's also a general term for cooldowns, which is haste, which increases your attack speed and your cooldown reduction at the same time, which is nice. It's just there's not, a lot of different stats to keep track of as in League. A lot of them are condensed down to one term, which is very nice for kind of streamlining the game and just making it easier to buy items that do multiple different things. So we got 3 people pushing bottom lane, so I'm kind of having to hold the line here, which isn't that hard with her because of her quick mobility and getting in and out and her harassment, but it is kind of overwhelming sometimes. And now they've got third person coming in, so that's one of the really interesting things about this game, is that because there's 2 lanes, you can kind of put 3 people in one lane and put the pressure on, since you don't have another lane to watch out for. And see, now they're attacking our Spirit Well, and even though it's not unlocked, they can still destroy the workers there, which gets them extra Vim, and it also stops us from gaining the passive Vim gain over time. So it kind of works twofold. And that was Dibs flying in to help us with this team fight here. His ability is really useful, and it kind of gives him more mobility than a lot of other champions, which is really important. It's one of the more unique ultimates I've seen in the game that is not something that's too similar to something in League. Shen has a similar ultimate, but this has its own feel. Now that they've pushed the tower down there, we're going to try and push this one pretty hard, which they're going to defend, but the odds are kind of against them. They had someone disconnect, so we've got someone else on the map that's going to come in here in a minute, and they've only got 4 people. And you see the second spellbook power that I took is called Overload, and what that does is it increases my power by a pretty significant amount for, I think it's like 2 seconds, and it gradually decreases. So it's just a good ability for where I'm at in the game, because I haven't had a chance to build a whole lot of high power items because I haven't gotten a lot of kills or assists. So it kind of just artificially helps boost my power when I need it. And since I'm a gladiator role, I need to be as aggressive as possible. So now we're back here. I'm going to buy some more items that give me some mastery. And I'm also going to buy some items that give me haste so that my cooldown reductions can be reduced by a little bit. And my movement speed will be a little bit higher too. Their team's got a lot of characters that have abilities that let them move pretty quickly, so I'm going to need to be able to outpace them. And I also bought, you'll see a little icon there for the health potions that I've been buying. There's only a handful of potions you can buy in the game, but there's a health potion, there's like a greater health potion that gives you more health over time. There's one that gives you, I believe, power and haste. And there's one more, I'm not 100% sure what it does though. Most of the time people are just buying health potions, if anything. And now they're trying to take control of our Spirit Well here now that they've become unlocked, and we're going to completely get rid of them. But as you can see, they were in the middle of taking it over, and then once we got there we were able to contest it, and then it went back down and is still ours. And there goes Dibs again. So, and you can see on the mini-map as well, we have one of their Spirit Wells. So we've got the passive gold being generated from ours and the passive gold being generated from theirs. So we've cut them off pretty hard on the Vim generation. That's what's helping our team out a lot. And those stay locked, I believe, for 5 minutes once they get regained. So it's not like you have to wait another 15 minutes before you can go and try and reclaim it. Yeah, and there's a big fight going on over there. I'm going to take this tower. As the game goes on, they get traded a lot, and it's a really good way to kind of pull enemies away from the towers if you go for one of the Spirit Wells. Kind of just gives you another objective to do instead of just kind of sitting around in lane. And here I'm going to take this buff, which is the power buff, just because nobody else is taking it, so why not? And like I said, I need to be as aggressive as possible, and I've only got 1 kill. And I'm also going to keep building my mastery just because it kind of gives me a different angle of attack, especially with her abilities. They have pretty low cooldowns, and they have pretty good range, so having high mastery just gives me a chance to overload them even more. And having overloaded abilities is really powerful. And in the middle there is the Parasite. Just like Baron, it's going to spawn in the middle. It's actually spawned there from the start of the game, pretty much. And you can fight it any time, and it gets more powerful as the game goes on. I think it spawns around 5 minutes or so. But you want to wait until later in the game to do anything with it, just because it's going to give you the greatest advantage. What it does is it gives your team the ability to spawn what are called Striders, which are basically the equivalent of the large minions in League of Legends. They're more powerful, they got more health, and so if your team has the ability to spawn those and the enemy doesn't, your lanes can push theirs so easily if they're not in them. So it just gives your team a huge passive advantage in getting a path to their their guardian. Here they've kind of come at us from both sides, so we're just going to go and try and take the spirit well really quickly while they're cleaning up. As you can see, there's the locking animation, and now they have to wait for the timer to go down before they can do anything about it. They can still go and kill the spirit well workers and everything, but they can't reclaim it. And that little animal that you keep seeing with a red eye icon over them, that is actually Nisa. That's her passive. She has a little animal companion that will go into the last bush she was in and basically act as a ward and give her vision over it. Not all characters have passives like League. In fact, only a small amount of characters do. It's kind of interesting to see how they balance that. My character, for example, I don't believe has a passive. It's just certain characters do. And now what I was talking about before with the haste and how haste applies to attack speed, cooldown, and movement, not everybody can take advantage of that to its full extent. You may think that, if I build a bunch of haste on a support character, they're going to have a ton of attack speed and they're going to have high cooldowns. There's actually an algorithm that the game uses that you can look up that only certain characters get the maximum bonus from haste, and everybody basically gets lumped into a couple different categories based on their abilities and how their playstyle fits. So, for example, my character doesn't actually gain that much attack speed off of each point of haste, but someone like Nissa will. So that's kind of how they balance it out, is your character gains a certain amount per point of haste, and that's almost customized for each character to ensure that that doesn't become too powerful on certain champions. And obviously the more people you have on a spirit well, the faster it gets captured and the easier you're able to contest it and everything like that. So right there, they had a whole bunch of people on our spirit well, and we're just able to take it in no time flat, which is fine because we'll take their binding in exchange because we still have 3 of the spirit wells on the map. Now in this match we don't actually get to kill the parasite, which is unfortunate because I wish I would have been able to show you, but it's basically the same thing as Baron. It'll attack you as you attack it. It's pretty powerful, so you're going to need most of your teammates to do any substantial damage. We don't go for it in this game just because the fact that they were missing a character kind of meant that we didn't really need to go through and go through all that effort. We could push right in their base. And now here's a good time to outline the Guardian. The Guardian is your equivalent of a Nexus, and it has 6 of these cores that protect it. Until those cores are gone, it'll have a shield. But the cool thing is, as you kill cores, it loses some of its attacks. So initially it's got 6 different attacks that it can use against you, and as you eliminate cores, it'll lose those powers. So first time you go to a base, it'll have a lot of attacks. It's got like a laser beam it can shoot, it's got an area of effect attack, it's got a lot of different stuff. But as you take out those cores, it'll lose those powers and get weaker and weaker until you're able to push into their base a lot easier. Now, those cores do regenerate over time, just like a Nexus turret would, but if you can keep the pressure up, you can have a pretty good advantage if you just can all get in there and just start destroying a lot of the cores at once. And at the end of the game, you get to karma vote, just as in League of Legends or similar games. You just let them know who did well, who helped out on the team. Generally, you just give karma to everybody who played, unless they were an asshole or left, just because, kind of common courtesy at this point. Right here is the blessings end game screen. So you get a random value at the end of each match, plus a number of bonuses. First win of the day, victory bonus, karma bonus, and those give you certain rankings on this scale, and those dictate what kind of bonuses you get. If you get to divine, which is the top one, you can actually have a chance at getting a character. So it's kind of an alternate way to unlock characters. Not guaranteed, but obviously the more ranking you get, the more bonuses you get. So right here you get some destiny, which is the currency in the game, and then some of the spirit stones to customize the loadout pages. It's kind of just a cool way to get rewarded for how you play. If you do well, you get more bonuses and you can even unlock characters. Though the random roll does kind of hold a lot of sway in that, which is unfortunate because if you get a really shitty roll on a match where you did really well, it can counteract itself. So unfortunately the enemy team surrendered, so I wasn't able to kind of show you guys the final encounter there with the enemy guardians, but that's kind of what happens in some of the matches. This was still a just kind of a good way to show off some of the basics of the game. And if I left anything out that you guys want to see, just leave a comment below on the YouTube page, or you can check us out on Twitch at PixelLooters, all one word. We're also online at pixellooters.com, where I'll have more articles that showcase some of the other MOBAs out there, and probably talk a little bit more about Dawngate and League and some other stuff. So definitely check us out online, guys. And if you have anything else, just put a comment below. Thanks.